Remember George R.R. Martin? He's a once famous blogger and writer who went on record as saying, "The only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself." Which he also didn't actually say, he's just commonly misquoted as he was actually referencing something William Faulkner said that George uses as his North Star while writing stories. And as sad as I am that George's fantasy series, A Song of Ice and Fire, the richest fantasy series ever written in my opinion, will never be finished, I do think I am glad we got the 5 books we did get. The Red Wedding, Jaime Lannister battling demons from his past, Jon Snow reconciling his role and leadership of the Night's Watch with his honorable upraising. All 3 of these things are depictions of what a character wants when they want more than one thing and those things are incompatible. In other words, the human heart in conflict with itself. The futility and beauty of the human struggle.
Please, no! 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 No!
Now imagine you had a twin brother, as ridiculous as this sounds, who is a demon. As a matter of fact, that would also make you a demon, wouldn't it? But more importantly, your mother was a human. It was your father who passed his demon heritage onto you. Spent hours and hours doing the things all boys like to do. Play fighting, imagined war games, and turning everything into a competition. All of which was water under the bridge for you two come bedtime. Also, all of this is with magic demon superpowers, by the way, which allows the fighting to get super violent if it possibly can. It made you happy, though. These demon superpowers also allow the two of you to regard the fighting as a decider in arguments, a proper outlet for the boundless energy you feel, and a refinement for your hobbies of swordsmanship and strategic thinking. It becomes your unique communication. Now, I never had a brother, so I don't know how accurate of a representation of growing up with a twin brother this is, but to me, it makes for a damn compelling bit of exposition for a story that will eventually involve the two brothers in global stakes. And of course, both brothers will find themselves on opposite ends of the stakes at hand. Devil May Cry 3 has a lot more to offer than dude bro anime power fantasy, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what. But it also does have that. Shut the fuck up.
Who knows? I'm not even sure myself. In all that is the bacon. Just a little bit.
Let's set the stage for this little adventure, shall we?
You've heard of it, haven't you? The Legend of Sparta? When I was young, my father would tell me stories about it. Long ago, in ancient times, a demon rebelled against his own kind for the sake of the human race. With his sword, he shut the portal to the demonic realm and sealed the evil entities off from our human world. But since he was a demon himself, his power was also trapped on the other side. I never believed it. I thought it was just a child's fairy tale. But I discovered that this so-called legend wasn't a myth at all. Sparta existed. How do I know? Well, I met the sons of Sparta. Both of them. Though the same blood of their father flowed through their veins, the two battled each other fiercely like arch enemies. It seemed as if they derived some sort of twisted pleasure from this brotherly fighting. But in the end, only one was left standing.
The game opens on an FMV cutscene of Dante and Virgil fighting on a rainy day against a dark blue storming sky, narrated by Lady. Who are Dante, Virgil, and Lady, you ask? That's for us to find out. The battle is fierce, but a few things will tip you off that this battle is not conducted out of hatred, but rather of rivalry. First of all, Lady's narration is the foremost and most obvious one. She, as a human, admits to having a poor understanding of this, but can tell that a sick pleasure is derived from this fight for these two demon brothers. The second, and perhaps slightly less obvious one, is the atmospheric coloring and direction of the scene. The atmosphere is oddly calming for a fight. We get blues throughout. Virgil's coat, the visible sky as the fight takes place outdoors, the color of life, the ocean. This battle is actually a celebration of life for these two brothers, who probably don't get many chances to feel alive, living as immortal half-demons. Devils Never Cry underlines the scene and is as rambunctious as Dante and Virgil are. That will become more obvious as we get into the characters of these two, but for now, we continue to watch the battle, as we hear Lady mention that at the end of this whole ordeal, only one of these brothers would be left standing, as we watch Virgil stab Dante twice in what would be a fatal way for anyone but Dante. Lady is telling this story to someone. She knows who comes out in the end. That cutscene is followed by Dante being attacked by Arkham and his goons. The cutscene is immediately more earthily toned and grounded than the last one, telling us that Dante is at the beginning of his journey. Is your name Dante, son of Sparda? Arkham straightforwardly inquires of Dante's heritage. Sparda is a famous demon who once saved humanity from the legions of hell. It's a known fact to those who have played Devil May Cry 1, and his name is slowly being dropped more and more frequently to hint at Dante's specialness. He's a half-demon, the son of the most powerful demon to ever exist and a human woman. Time has jumped from the last cutscene to this one. No music until the action starts, at which point we get Dante smashing his jukebox in-game to start the soundtrack for both himself and the player. This marks the combining point of Dante and the player's perspective and experience. From here on out, we embody Dante, with all the implications of that. We get a more grungy battle theme for our intro to Dante, and it fucking rocks. They really pulled out all the stops in the musical department. The guitar shreds encouragement out to you to go along with your rapid coming to terms with the controls. And here's where we get our intro to the combat and Dante as a whole. Starting out with Rebellion, Dante's skull-hilted sword. Your first introduction to combat is likely going to be sending an enemy flying with Rebellion Combo 1, which will do so after its third and final hit, leaving them alive, but down and away from Dante. Here lies the main thrust of the gameplay in Devil May Cry 3. How do you kill the enemy, but do it all real cool-like, without having to spend a bunch of time chasing them around? That's for us to find out. Royal Guard. The first of 4 styles available to Dante, with all of its functions by default mapped to the circle button, as is the function of styles in Devil May Cry 3. It's a counter-based style, where timing a press of the circle button with contact with an enemy's attack will build a revenge meter for Dante. With enough attacks blocked in Royal Guard, Dante can unleash a powerful revenge attack by pressing forward and circle on the controller while holding RB. Generally speaking, it's not recommended for this style to be used by new players, as it's heavily timing-based and is easier to learn after you've seen most attacks enemies can use in the game. However, a more specific use of it is to use its almost instant active frame to cancel Dante's attack, creating new combos by stringing moves together that otherwise couldn't be. Royal Guard can be leveled up twice through use in-game to unlock more features like air blocking and an attack that turns enemy projectiles into healing. Trickster. Perhaps the most straightforward style. This puts a dodge with invincibility frames on your circle button. You can use it to dash around the battlefield deftly and quickly close the distance between yourself and enemies safely. You can level this style up twice through use in combat and unlock new features like extra dashes in sequence and air dashes. Swordmaster. Dante's melee weaponry gets an upgrade. All melee weapons now have extra attacks on the circle button. If you start the game with Swordmaster as your style, on your first playthrough, Rebellion will have 2 moves on the circle button: Prop Shredder on the ground and Aerial Ray while you're in the air. Gunslinger. The same as Swordmaster, but for Dante's guns. Moves like Rainstorm, where Dante fires downward in the air with his twin pistols, Ebony and Ivory. Badass. Mission 1 entirely takes place in Dante's office, which bears strong resemblance to what we see of it in Devil May Cry 1. However, in Dante's own words, this is a newly opened business and doesn't yet have a name. Everything is brighter here and more vibrant than it was in DMC 1, going along with Dante's first player-controlled venture in his storyline, along with the start of the story of DMC 3. Finishing up Mission 1 and going into Mission 2, we encounter the first few enemies of DMC 3, that being the Seven Hells, scythe-bearing fodder enemies for Dante, each with a different coloring to reflect their attack styles and minor mechanical differences between them. But one of the biggest enemies we face is the Hell Vanguard, the big boss version of the Seven Hells. Literally physically resembling a large pride of the Seven Hells, it's our first boss and wields a magic purple scythe and can teleport, with loud screaming noises accompanying it. It's notably more demonic and frightening than anything else we've seen up to this point. It serves as a nice jumping off point for the two cutscenes beginning immediately following the completion of Mission 2.
It's been nearly a year since we last met. Where does the time go? No doubt you've got some fun planned for me, right, Virgil?
A giant fissure tears through the city outside Dante's office. We get sort of more of a picture of how the game will play out when we finally get a look at the streets in addition to the one we're currently on. The design is all the same brown and earthy look without much variance, and is otherwise there to signify that this is still the beginning. Whatever's coming out of that crack represents the real start to the action. Sure enough, an ancient-looking tower eclipses the skyline as it rises from the fissure. The tower is a shock to the city, and its rise destroys blocks for miles around. It immediately contrasts the polygonal nature of the city we've been fighting in up to this point, as it's a large concentrically winding cylinder in a look of extreme disrepair, foreboding and threatening compared to the rote and familiar building of a modern city. Dante muses as it rises. It's already been a year? Where does the time go? Dante is referring to the figure both he and the viewer see that stood atop the tower as it exploded skyward, a swordsman in a long coat like Dante wears, but his contrasts Dante's blood red coat. It's an electric blue color. Not everything needs to be complicated. These two are opposite primary colors, cursed to paradoxically forever remain at odds, but right next to each other as fundamental pillars of visible light and its resulting color wheel. Not unpredictably, we get another shot of this swordsman, who mirrors Dante in another way. He also has white hair. His is slicked back in a more business-forward approach. Again, the contrast is straightforward. You may or may not have played the game before, but here we have the iconic Virgil, Dante's twin brother and foil. He was briefly referenced in Arkham's first approach to Dante, albeit not by name. His purpose remains unclear to us at this point in the story, but seems to stand apart from Dante. Again, not unpredictably. We now have another cutscene of Virgil and Arkham meeting atop the tower, now named. Temen Ni, Gru, is an ancient tower built by those who revered evil, said Arkham. The tower is bad. Virgil stops Arkham in his frothing by telling him he doesn't care, lifting a medallion from around his neck, which feels like it might be a reminder to himself of why he's doing this. We've seen a matching medallion around Dante's neck since his first appearance in the game. Virgil and Arkham both muse over Dante not knowing the power his own medallion carries. Now we get an immediate comparison in power between Dante and Virgil. The Hell Vanguard that served as Dante's boss in Mission 2 escaped before it could be killed, and returns having failed its mission to Arkham and Virgil's feet. You actually get a hilarious shot of it following Virgil around like a dumb animal waiting for orders or praise or something, from the being patently above it in the pecking order, only for Virgil to deal it a fatal blow in a series of slashes too fast for the eye to see. He was too annoyed to deal with demons who don't meet his standard. This death marks the first instance of Virgil's sword being used, and we see that he also has a starkly different fighting style from that of Dante. Highly controlled and precise, he attacks with the katana and a highly stylized facsimile of Iaijutsu sword technique, famous in Japan. Dante, meanwhile, is a thrill seeker. His attacks are all with a giant greatsword. He swings like it weighs nothing, and does it with great joy. Almost every attack is coupled with some expression of the fun Dante is having. In fact, now, since we saw the pizza in the first cutscene, and we're discussing his fighting style, I'll leave it to 4chan to sum up Dante's fighting style and not at all reductive characterization. Wacky woohoo pizza man. The remains of the Hell Vanguard fall to the ground, and we get our final important character introduction as it lands. Lady on her motorcycle. I mean, she's a mysterious lady. Red boots and motorcycle, the color of blood and heritage. Important stuff when it comes to Devil May Cry 3. Now that we have some red orbs under our belt from completing missions 1 and 2, it's time to get into the applied external motivating factor of Devil May Cry 3, the style meter. With the varied toolset Dante has available to him, the game will reward you for maintaining a constant application of pressure with it, as long as you do so without getting hit and without repeating the same combo or move too closely together. After a few seconds, the meter will decay, so if you build it up all the way, going a few seconds without attacking will completely reset it, which getting hit will as well. It feels simply grand to watch the style ranks go up as you fight. The style ranks are D, C, B, A, S, double S, and triple S. You earn more points for hitting enemies at higher style ranks and will get more orbs at the end of missions for more style points, you see. And you can again see that at the highest style rank, stylish is red, like so many other things related to Dante. Progressing through Mission 3, we meet its final obstacle, the three-headed dog Cerberus in a cutscene. It's here that we finally get a good showcase of Dante's patented thrill-seeker characterization. Cerberus's white and icy lair at the front of the tower is our first step into a truly different and exciting environment, cold simply because demonic magic from Cerberus is present here. With a threat like that in front of him, however, Dante's first reaction is to mock Cerberus upon being warned to get lost, playing on the dog form Cerberus has. He's so cool. Cerberus is immediately angered by this and tells Dante he'll regret it. Well, and what do you think Dante does? Dante just doesn't care and doesn't think Cerberus can actually do anything about it. Cerberus is actually a tough fight, especially on a fresh save. His weakest points are up high, which only Swordmaster and Gunslinger have a great way of targeting, but you can target Cerberus's legs and he'll sometimes fall down for you to get at his heads. Something Cerberus tells Dante after realizing he's going to lose this fight is a shock to realization that Dante is not human. But more interestingly, is Dante's response.
Who knows? I'm not even sure myself.
This response by Dante is a play on the theme of blood and family we'll get throughout the game. What makes a person human? Is it having two human parents? Or is it something more difficult to define than that? That's for us to find out. It's just great. And asking these questions is what lets Devil May Cry 3 fly under the radar as a great piece of storytelling simply by virtue of the fact that it also speaks the lingua franca of video games, arguably better than any other game. It's combat. Cerberus grants Dante his soul in the form of a three-headed set of ice nunchucks, showing us another trait of Dante. He's a natural with all weaponry. He's never used this weapon before, ostensibly, and he wields it like he was born with it in the cutscene. This cutscene also marks the meeting of Lady and Dante face to face. Dante and the player get a glimpse of Lady and her heterochromatic red and green eyes. And you're gonna love this. It's cool. Get a cutscene of Dante surfing on a rocket. This reminds me of that cutscene from Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes. The rocket then blows up in the ceiling and Lady rides away through the hole. I love Lady's design, man. Those eyes tell the whole story. A red one, representative of her reluctant ties to the more important themes of this story. Her green one represents her ability/function through her masterful skill with weaponry, despite only being a human. She's so badass. Lady's here to serve cunt and I won't hear otherwise. Now inside of Temminee, Gru, we get a good look at it. Full of statues and with a gray, lighter gray, white coloring scheme intercut with yellow runes on the wall. It seems this is a timeless place we've stumbled into. Fully immersed in the gameplay now as we're inside it, the tower feels unnatural and quiet. The magical and demonic power of the tower, confirmed from the inside with our own eyes. There are some things that are gameplay concessions like multicolored doors throughout, but for the most part we have a wholly cohesive environment for the rest of the game. The ambience is only broken up by the occasional dissonant piano key, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. I think you're gonna like this, just listen. The music works to instill confidence in the player. Different ambient tracks will play depending on your location throughout Temminee Gru, but upon encountering enemies, you'll get a slow fade-in of Dante's battle theme, Taste of the Blood. A rapid, drum machine-laden piece of cool and professional violence to remind you who's the boss of these demons. Anger refined through years of existence. It's not easy to separate Devil May Cry from its Resident Evil roots, but Devil May Cry manages it as well as you can, by making any enemy encounter for Dante strongly differentiated than one for Leon or Chris Redfield. You know what Rorschach meant in that one scene in Watchmen when you play as Dante. With a few more melee weapons, guns, and orbs under our belt now, it's time to address the game's difficulty. For a game that I personally define as the ultimate video game power fantasy, Devil May Cry 3 can feel punishingly difficult. It's easy to get out of rhythms you found yourself in and die in just a few hits, getting more punishing on higher difficulties. Following that is the well-documented change in difficulty settings, for the Japanese release of the game to the North American one. It's a long story, but to put it simply, the Japanese release had its difficulty settings set up a notch for the American release, meaning the Japanese hard mode was the North American normal. None of that matters to me though. Devil May Cry 3 will frustrate you if you don't follow the simple rules it has set up. It requires that you step into Dante's mind. Dante is carefree, at least superficially, and fun. You should feel like him. Going into the game and mashing to find yourself having completed the game is not how Dante would approach Devil May Cry. Experiment with your combos. Not doing that and just mashing the attack button with Rebellion will not only likely not be effective, it'll get you killed. The style system is the connective tissue between the player and reaching a legendary Devil Hunter Nirvana. At first, you'll feel like you're only getting D, C, B, and sometimes A ranks, barely reaching that elusive S. This is an intended feeling of playing the game, and is present across all difficulties. The game asks that instead of doing Rebellion's powerful but ultimately decisive 3-hit combo all the time, you do only 2 hits sometimes, leaving the enemy right in front of Dante, defenses completely dropped. Here's where you get to experiment, and the real fun begins. Switch to your other weapon. Suddenly you know how to play the game. Enemy reeling from Rebellion. You now unleash a flurry of Cerberus nunchuck hits onto the enemy and your style rises because the game rewards you for your creativity. Weapon switch, gun switch, incorporate style actions. All of a sudden you realize you're also feeling the satisfaction of having unlimited power at your fingertips. And maybe Dante just is that cool. After going through another levels and fighting some bosses, which bosses, you ask? That's for us to find out. Oh, just a giant flying centipede and 2 red and blue swordsman brothers. Oh yeah, Agni and Rudra, look at that. I swear I've seen a pair of brothers, one wearing red, one wearing blue, also swordsmen somewhere before. I wonder where I saw them. Oh well, I guess it'll come back to me eventually. Let's just move on for now. We finally made it to the top of the tower. And if you couldn't feel the strong early 2000s Matrix influence before, well, you're gonna feel it now. But not before we get a sick cutscene of Lady kicking the shit out of some demons. I told you you'd feel that Matrix influence. The choreography lady for it is just too damn clean. I can almost never get enough of watching her flip around and acrobatically use explosions and gun kata and shoot demons until they're dead and stuff. Arriving at the tower's top, we're treated to a quick automated camera handoff to a shot of Virgil facing away from us, standing there awaiting our arrival. It's a tense scene, as he knows Dante would inevitably reach him up here, and here we are. Meeting face to face for the first time in the game, the banter between the two is second to none.
You showed up.
You sure know how to throw a party. No food, no drinks, and the only babe just left.
My sincerest apology, brother. I was so eager to see you, I couldn't concentrate on preparations for the bash.
Whatever. At any rate, it's been a whole year since we last met. How about a kiss from your little brother? Or better yet, how about a kiss from this? So, this is what they call a heartwarming family reunion, eh?
You got that right.
But the cutscene is noticeably short because, as established, this is a reunion for these two. A heartwarming family reunion. And for these two, that means it's time to fight. Now we get our first boss battle with Virgil, and it's really fucking cool. We can see we're in the same setting the very first opening FMV cutscene took place in, and depending on the difficulty, Virgil has openings in between combos he'll do for us to unleash damage onto him. If you've really been paying attention, you can feel the words Virgil has for you carry excitement behind them. He relishes the opportunity to fight another as skilled as him. This is the first opponent, besides Jester, who we'll get to later, who speaks the same language as the player. Now I'm a little motivated. We're also treated to a unique theme for Virgil's boss battle. Doesn't have a unique name, it's just called Virgil Battle 1. But the feeling is what's cool about it. It's noticeably more desperate than music up to this point. After all, it's no longer just about getting to each other. After all, it was Dante's goal to reach Virgil all along. Now that we're here, the pride of our rivalry is on the line. Far more personal for the two brothers than simply killing some nameless demons. After the fight is finished, we're treated to the cutscene that opened the game. Again, but this time it starts earlier and continues past the point of Virgil stabbing Dante, and also doesn't feature opening credits and lady's narration. We also get Virgil with his hair having fallen on his face, making it obvious that Virgil is simply an angrier version of Dante by the fact that he shares the exact same character model with a few assets changed. Virgil's words, "Might controls everything," to Dante, as well as his misunderstanding of Dante's refusal to grasp the power of their father Sparta, tell us his motivation: to get more power. With a realistic deduction, we can assume that this is why he and Arkham are working together, using the tower to claim some ancient demonic power that the heirlooms he and Dante carry are connected to. After successfully beating Dante and claiming his amulet, Dante reawakens but with an angry red glow to him. Virgil muses that it seems Dante has awakened a devil inside as well. Now the training weights are off, and the final mechanic of DMC3 is introduced. And Devil Trigger is its name. By pressing a button, Dante can go into a faster, more powerful, and more durable demonic form, Devil Trigger. You'll build a resource bar in combat, and drain it by remaining in Devil Trigger. Being stabbed by his own sword seemed to awaken this power within Dante. This new form feels truly powerful, as not only is it Dante's Super Saiyan, but holding the button down while you have Devil Trigger resources built up and releasing it will unleash what is called a Devil Trigger Explosion, where you can spend most of the bar at once to explode and hit everything within a fully spherical space around you. Devil Trigger Explosion is more powerful depending on the amount of resources you put into it, and a fully powered Devil Trigger Explosion is among the most damage you can do with a single hit in the game. Having learned that, the next cutscene is a sweet action set piece of Dante demonstrating his newfound power, or maybe just the confidence he feels now that he knows he has it. After having let Virgil and Arkham escape down into the tower, Dante jumps off the side and kills some blood gargoyles on the way down. It's a scene full of energy, as with Dante swinging and shooting come multiple different tracking shots, all following his movements precisely with the choreography of a professional dance. Then he gets eaten by the whale-like Leviathan demon that patrols the tower's outer perimeter. What follows is maybe my least favorite segment in the game, where you run through the cramped intestines of the Leviathan demon fighting through scythe-wielding enemies to find a way out, which leads you to its heart. You get a weird boss battle with the stationary heart and organs of the Leviathan, which shoot lasers. It's not unfair or too easy, and actually is probably my favorite part of the level, but overall the level itself is just sort of annoying, as it's perhaps the worst representation the camera gets in the game. Of course, the soundtrack goes as hard as ever, with cool tracks playing when you get attacked by another Gigapede and a funky and confident boss battle theme for the Leviathan heart. But the whole, you're in a weird flesh space, was a lot cooler in Devil May Cry 1 in its final stages when it was just an unnatural hellscape. Maybe people still like that it makes an appearance in Devil May Cry 3. But I don't know, it just felt like a distraction from TNG my first time through. We unlock the next cutscene upon killing the Leviathan, though, which is Arkham and Virgil having an uneasy alliance with one another as Virgil simply ignores Arkham when he's speaking. There's a tension in the air with these two, but it's different from Dante and Virgil's. Whereas Dante and Virgil seem to enjoy the opportunity to fight, Arkham and Virgil are annoyed, at odds, and on unstable ground with one another. It doesn't seem like this relationship was built to last. Funnily enough, that relationship is contrasted with the next one we get to see on screen, the relationship between the male and female leads of the game, Dante and Lady. Again, we get a highly dynamic action scene where the two of them casually eliminate an attacking group of demons while having idle chit-chat throughout. It's a subtle hint that these two characters have more in common with each other than either one probably wants to admit. Dante being a demon is starting to seem like not as terrible a thing as Lady originally thought it was, because originally when she first saw Dante, she would just attack him, and Dante is interested in who Lady is as a whole. Again, we're looking at two characters whose blood defines them as different species, but in reality, they share a sense of morality that goes beyond genetic makeup. Dante, however, just jumps away because he thinks girls are gross. I don't want to miss the party. Yeah, Dante, is that why we're always catching you with Andrew Tate on in the background? Going through a level filled with spider enemies, we get a lot more of a paler green, giving these areas a bit of a sickly feel, like the tower itself is dealing with an infestation. We get attacked by spiders, seems like we found the infestation. However, the area is also home to the underground lake, perhaps the calmest area in the game. The sound of flowing water as soon as you enter feels like you've perhaps earned a brief moment of rest upon entering. The fuck? Encouraged now to explore, you can find a powerful new gun, Spiral, the sniper rifle. No new aiming mechanics or anything. You just get to fire a giant Rudy Tooty point and shooty from your hip, as is the scientific term. But alas, not too fast, as Mikolash from Bloodborne once said, the nightmare swirls and churns unending. It's time to move on to our next challenge. Mission 9's boss, Nevin. Nevin seems to recognize Dante as Sparta's progeny and gets all... for Dante. He's a succubus, so it's intended to draw him in, but that doesn't stop Dante from showing a little flirtation himself. Perhaps, though, that's because he knows what game Nevin is playing. It turns out he does, because they both get ready for combat. Nevin is colored the same paler green as the sickly infested areas, and while that might not be directly related, it feels on theme and correct for the areas. Her mechanics and music aren't anything terribly different from what we've seen thus far, with the newest talking point being that she has a shield you have to bring down before you can damage her. Again, some solidly good DMC3 rambunctious action music to go along with the fight. What's most notable about Nevin is the weapon you get upon beating her. Nevin transforms her soul into a scythe electric guitar hybrid that fires electric bats as it gets strummed. Dante, as a counterculture king, naturally has really fun mechanics to go along with this weapon. It's slow, but has solid crowd control potential, and more importantly, looks and feels very fitting in Dante's hands. DMC3 being a prequel to all the games that come prior logically means we're dealing with a younger Dante, and all the implications that come with that. He seems into music and would rather not have to spend time cleaning up messes left by his dad Sparta. So actually having Nevin be a weapon we can use in pursuit of Dante's goals shows high sensitivity and awareness of Dante's character for the writing team of DMC3. And with that beautiful bit of gameplay storytelling cohesion, we move on to another scene. We get a scene of Virgil killing Arkham, as he states that with the door to the seal between the human and demon world open, he no longer has a use for a human who makes deals with devils. The area they're in feels a lot more arcane, as the stone disrepair of the tower we've come to know has given way to more polygonal and brightly colored design, suggesting this is the heart of magic that the tower operates under. However, we return to Dante, who's still playing catch up to these two, to his growing annoyance. Dante happens upon the corpse of Arkham at the same time Lady does, where after being toyed with in a mockery of a fight from Dante, explains that Arkham is her father and her reason for being here. Another case of burdensome blood ties. If you didn't see it, Dante even literally says in this cutscene, "I have a dysfunctional family too." Things seem to be finally starting to come to a head when we see that actually Arkham is still alive, barely, and calls Lady by her birth name, Mary. He seems to be in a state of delusion or shock and asks Lady, Mary, where her mother is. Lady responds that he killed her. Arkham tells Lady that the whole thing, including the murder of her mother, was Virgil's idea. Lady is easily manipulated by this tactic, as she's emotionally vulnerable with her father's life in the balance. We meet another demon who doesn't like Sparta all that much, I think.
I will annihilate every last blood relation of Sparta!
And he becomes our next boss battle. A little unusually though, upon defeating him, he escapes alive. A cutscene plays of Arkham's last known location, where he was previously thought to be lying dead, and the spot is mysteriously empty. Immediately upon starting the next mission, Dante is stopped by Jester, an enigmatic figure that's been chasing us through the game, seemingly there to drop hints for Dante about how the tower works, but also to stand in his way as a recurring boss battle. These battles never seem to actually affect Jester. He'll just appear in the next one and cackle the same way, and attack Dante with different bizarre magic attacks. His function in the story is a bit like that of an evil faun, enigmatic and mysterious, but clearly demonic. With that little bit of exposition out of the way, here Jester will inform Dante that the artifact he picked up will drain his power. So Dante better get to steppin', cause Johnny Law is a-comin'. Dante will make his way through another boss, Garion, who actually gives Dante another style upon being defeated, Quicksilver. It's pretty fun to use to stop time and beat on enemies. Another boss quickly takes center stage though. Remember how we let a boss get away instead of killing him? It's Beowulf, who escaped our clutches and finds Virgil, mistaking him for us through his scent. A cool little subversion happens where Virgil, upon slicing Beowulf to bits, is actually himself granted a new piece of weaponry, in the same video gaming way we've been getting upgraded to this point. It's a gauntlet weapon named after the boss, and Virgil now has it as a part of his loadout. Virgil's a little mad that his little ritual isn't working as Dante approaches him.
Why isn't this working?
His gamer rage is an easy button for Dante to target, who upon meeting Virgil one more time, immediately goads him into a fight. Thus begins Virgil Battle 2, where we get our first exposure to Beowulf as a weapon, when Virgil uses it against us. It has white light trails making every hit feel empowered by demon energy, and it's a fist and foot armored gauntlet weapon, which always feels more personal to use and get hit by. The theme for this fight is noticeably sadder while carrying the same tone of desperation as our first encounter with Virgil. The fight feels a little more ominous, taking place within the blood ritual chamber, and seems like the brothers have altogether disregarded the imminent destruction at hand to focus entirely on their fight. Virgil has a few new lines. He'll also use Devil Trigger against us for the first time, meaning we can now make risky moves against him to shorten the time we'll spend in it by doing damage to him. Virgil's swinging for real damage on us this time too. He'll tell us we're not worthy as his opponent, and that we won't forget that devil's power. All around, a contender for best boss battle in the game. All good things must come to an end though, and shortly thereafter, everything in the plot gets turned on its head. Dante and Virgil are swinging at each other, only to be interrupted by Lady, at which point both Dante and Virgil both impatiently make dismissive remarks towards her. But Lady is only the beginning, because Dante's past Jester is all of a sudden amongst the characters in the fray. But something is different about him this time. He appears more threatening than usual, disarming Lady before she can shoot and throwing her to the ground. He tells Dante and Virgil that everything that's happened up to this point has been to tire the two of them out by getting them to fight each other as much as possible, because it means with both of them tired, Jester can easily physically overpower both of them. With this information, Jester also reveals that he's Arkham in disguise, something you may have noticed via the eyes of the two of them being the same heterochromatic color. This scheme was all so Arkham could take Virgil's place at the last moment and summon the power of the tower, creating a portal to the demon world and allowing Arkham to take Sparta's power. Lady was also important because the blood of a mortal priestess Lady is related to was once used in the ritual by Sparta, so she has ties to Sparta as well. With her blood, the spell is broken and the portal opens, rearranging the entire tower using demonic energy as Dante, Virgil, and Lady are all defeated in one fell swoop. Virgil also dropped Beowulf, so we get that too. Dante sees Lady's discarded motorcycle at the base of the tower and rides it up the side to catch up with Arkham, who's with the portal at the top. He does this in the most Dante way, whooping and hitting trick jumps with it to kill the demons who attack him on the way up. Dante simply does not care. Dante's true character is on display with no one around. Even when he and his brother are complicit in opening a portal to the demon world, Dante doesn't brood. He He makes the best of a bad situation because why let some mook like Arkham take that away from you? All of this is set to his battle theme. It reminds you that you and Dante are in this together and you'll both see it through to the end. The end approaches as a cutscene of Arkham casting some sort of spell plays to finally pull open the portal to the demon world, invoking some not unexpected satanic imagery in doing so. The sky opens into a mosaic of red and green. This appears to be the portal we've heard so much about, and Arkham is sucked up into it while cackling. The start of Mission 16 comes around, and it has a pretty on-theme phrase written under the stage title. Stand up for your beliefs. The stakes dictate something needs to change, or at least something has to be done about this portal. But what exactly? That's for us to find out. Dante and Lady meet at the precipice of reaching Arkham. Dante has a couple quips for Lady, but Lady immediately cuts through it by forcing Dante to reckon with how much he actually cares about what's happening around him. Virgil and he are directly related to an event from centuries before that's resurfacing and close to destroying the world, and it's annoying to Dante. He didn't want to be Sparta's son, but he knows he is and understands the responsibility this saddles him with. This cutscene carries an air of sadness and innocence lost with it. This isn't a job for anyone but someone with the power of Sparta. Lady has a similar problem. After all, Arkham is her father. The two can't just let the other pass. So a boss fight ensues, and what I presume is canonically Dante humoring Lady until she realizes she has no choice but to trust Dante with her task. Dante promises he'll stop Arkham. Dante steps foot into a cube room. It's another contrast in its highly rigid design, feeling like another truly demonic room, beyond human comprehension. It's actually one of my favorite rooms in the game from an artistic standpoint. It's not really relevant to the point of the video, but it's a crazy fucking room. Everything is square and feels inspired by Hellraiser. But back to it. It's not easy to write a story, and I think that Devil May Cry 3 was even not easier because Dante is the main character. I mean that Dante is uniquely difficult to write because he's so improbably competent at everything he does. But Devil May Cry 3 shines in this respect. Dante, as he mentions to Lady, is letting his soul direct him, which to me means he's listening to his heart. This isn't the last time Dante's soul will come up either. If you couldn't put it together until now, Virgil is poised to make a big comeback in this conflict. Those two things are related. As Dante's journey slowly becomes more personal and close to his ideals, he steps foot into a room full of golden demon-carved marble, and he faces off against a boss called Doppelganger. It's Dante, but in a permanently devil-triggered form. It feels like a personal test for Dante, preventing him from proceeding unless he's certain of his own convictions. Dante speaks of questions asked of oneself, and doubts he's already overcome. He's talking about his demon heritage and what it means to him. Dante, while not something he's chosen, has made peace with the fact that he can never truly be human. Nonetheless, he'll embrace that part of himself and do what he can to protect humanity. The right read of this comes off as tragic. Dante envies humanity's mortality and is cursed to live with the immortality and limitless power of Sparta instead. With great power comes great responsibility, and while Spider-Man ultimately started out as human, Dante has inherited the world through his demon father and heritage. Even though Dante is strong, he knows he can never truly belong among humans.
Well then, let's wrap up this crazy party, shall we? Gotta clean up the mess Father left behind.
Sounding exasperated with the whole mess, Dante follows Arkham into the demon world. The demon world is a white and endless plain with floating platforms that merge and disband as Dante proceeds. It feels crazed and infinite here, which makes it feel good to have Dante as your avatar in this world. He isn't slowed down by fear, neither will you be, but there is still a giant eye watching you in the distance. Dante gets teleported into a demonic chess game, which he smashes to bits. Dante completes a puzzle where he has to do a boss rush on a kind of game board that needs to have a circle created on it to complete. The circle is completed by beating bosses corresponding to a jewel on the board. Beowulf, Agni and Rudra, and Cerberus will make a circle. Meanwhile, we see Arkham, who finds Force Edge in an endless purple plain among floating platforms. Force Edge is the aforementioned power of Sparta, a broadsword with the power to separate the demon world from the human. Arkham swings it a few times and takes on the image of Sparta. Sparta looks fucking cool, but we know it's not actually him. It's just lame-ass Arkham. Onwards, we get to Mission 19, the penultimate mission of the game. It's a bittersweet mission. It has some of my favorite visuals in the game. The first room is an endless plain of blood against a dark bluish purple background and destroyed statues of unknown origin. The game has a slope of feeling more hellish as you progress through it. The level also features keys and imagery that's modeled after classic Buddhist imagery of samsara, death and rebirth, with Dante literally overcoming a trial of time resetting itself and being rewarded with a key called samsara. All in all, this is one of my favorite levels in any video game ever. The creativity of the team was at an all-time high here, except until it isn't. Dante completes the last of his trials to find himself in a similar looking purple plain to where we last saw Arkham. Arkham. It looks cool, like a massive power source has been removed from its socket and the plane is now collapsing, with the center resembling a sinkhole to another dimension. The visuals are not the point, though. The boss of Mission 19 is Arkham. Now, to address the sudden shift in tone, Arkham's boss fight is, thematically, also very cool. The first cutscene is pure, raw Dante. He tells Arkham that seeing the old power of his father wielded by him is like staring into a backed-up toilet. It is, because Arkham no longer bears the resemblance of Sparta. The power has rejected him, turning him into a giant amorphous blob of purple muscle tissue. Virgil makes his triumphant return into the story, and does it as a playable mechanic. Halfway through the fight, a cutscene plays. Virgil is as cool as ever, slicing Arkham from off-screen before you even see him. Nonchalantly, he's here to retrieve his power, which sets up that Virgil is indeed our final obstacle. However, Arkham has become a nuisance for both player, Dante, and Virgil, and it's time to take care of him. This fight is terrible, the worst in the game. You get a lethal combination of awkward camera, invincible phases, and control thief from the player that makes it feel worse than anything else up to this point. To start, Arkham will disappear, he'll disappear after taking damage for a time. I've never been a fan of bosses just straight up going away in a fight. Feels like the boss fight gets put on pause. I could forgive this if not for the rest of the fight. After Virgil appears, Dante's circle button, which is the style button by default as previously discussed, is replaced with a call button for Virgil, who now matches Dante's movement and attacks and is part of the live gameplay of the Arkham fight. It is cool as hell to have Virgil in the fight. It's not to no longer have access to Dante's basic tools as a result. You see, not only is style gone, but for whatever reason, so is Devil Trigger. Devil Trigger being removed actually feels like running a normal race that gets stopped halfway and becomes a three-legged race with a person that wasn't there when you left the starting line, when you're already 50% of the way through a race. The passive health regen you may have come to rely on now no longer exists, and neither does the economy of using Devil Trigger Explosion. It just feels like playing Dante and Virgil at about 25% of their power respectively. In contrast to this, though, the cutscene you get upon beating Arkham might make the entire ordeal worth it. In fact, every cutscene that plays from here on out is pure Kino. Dante and Virgil unleash sick combos during the cutscene, swapping weapons with one another, in the first display of cooperation we've seen from the two brothers. The ease with which they swap weapons feels like something they practiced, like there's a lot more to these brothers than just pure animosity, and what they're capable of when they work together. Let's talk about Virgil trying it Dante's way for once. He uses a gun, something he hasn't done in any of our fights. In comparison to Dante, he seems to only be willing to use melee weaponry to deal with his enemies. As much as I love Virgil, this is what makes me love Dante even more. Dante, as we just watched in the cutscene where they kill Arkham, seems to be just as skilled as Virgil is with a katana, but we can deduce that unlike Virgil, Dante doesn't feel like he has anything to prove by avoiding more conventional and less personal weaponry. Lady double taps Arkham after he falls out of the Hell portal. We follow Dante and Virgil deeper in as they chase after Force Edge and their amulets. Arkham dropped upon his defeat. Dante says his soul is telling him to pursue Sparta's justice rather than his power. Of course, Virgil feels the opposite way about the ideals of Sparta. Needless to say, this cutscene is fucking terrific. Virgil tells Dante their goals are incompatible. Thus, our third Virgil battle and final boss fight begins. This fight feels the most like a duel. Both characters are at their full power, and with their beliefs on the line. If Virgil 1 was a brotherly reunion, and Virgil 2 was a petty argument, Virgil 3 is a desperate goodbye. It feels final. The setting is a room called the Unsacred Hellgate, with a flowing river at our feet, and structures made from gargantuan bones surround us, with a portal to hell in the sky behind us. I love the line delivery of Virgil's defeat in-game.
Dante.
It's this tragic combination of disappointment, exhaustion, and resignation that always hits me square in the chest. Virgil defeated, Dante shows uncharacteristic hesitation when Virgil is talking about how no one can have the amulet but him. But it's not whining, it's an announcement. Virgil knows that Dante doesn't want to kill him, but Virgil is also tragically stubborn to his last breath. Having lost the duel, he steps backward over the cliff, at the edge of the river we've been fighting in. Dante reaches for him, but it's too late. Virgil doesn't even attempt to reach back. Instead, he slices Dante's outreached hand as he falls. Virgil disappears into the void beneath us. Dante's hand shakes emotionally as he clenches his wounded fist, eyes fixed on the wound. Dante's movements appear weighed by some unseeable burden as he walks back and grabs his father's sword that he came for and leaves. The last threat having finally been defeated, Dante and Lady meet outside the wreckage caused by the now banished TNG. The credits begin to roll. But don't let that trick you, the game isn't over yet. The cutscene continues playing. Lady picks up on what happened without Dante telling her. Dante sheds a single tear for his actions. He's accepted his lack of humanity. But Lady doesn't see it that way. Dante has changed her perspective on demons with his sense of morality and justice, like Sparta, Dante's father, once did. And she can see the pain he has on full display. Virgil was Dante's twin brother, the only other son of Sparta. Who else could Dante ever possibly have a real connection with now that he's dead? And no matter what happened that day, Virgil is now dead by Dante's hand. Dante's potential far outreached his genetics. An additional cutscene plays with some visuals that make this story feel more cohesive with the game that takes place afterwards, Devil May Cry 1. But notably, Dante still keeps the fingerless riding glove that was sliced by Virgil as a reminder. Demons up to this point have either been savage and mindless monsters, or incapable of love or empathy on some level. Furthermore, a character like Arkham, a human who sought the power of demons, committed atrocities that shed him of his own humanity, and frankly made him feel more like a demon than a human. Dante, however, puts the needs of the entire human race over his own. Virgil is dead because of that. But that was a sacrifice Dante knew he would have to make all along. Just one single act, and Dante has proven his humanity far beyond what Lady thought was possible for a demon. His potential reached. The world, his charge. What do we hold dear as a result? And what are we willing to do to protect it? I don't think these questions have easy answers, but they are questions that plague us every day. Now we're at the end of Dante's adventure and back to reality. Having received this message, what are we, player, capable of that we didn't think we were before? How far does our reach truly extend with the help of belief? What, viewer, is our true potential?